All right, guys. So this is one of the more disturbing videos that I'm going to have up here. No one gets hurt in this video. I want to make sure that that's apparent here at first. The reason why it's more disturbing is because these thieves pull up in a predatory way. Isn't it funny? Even the last video I did, if you notice, the car that the perpetrators were in was always a Dodge kind of vehicle. It's always something cheap and fast. Anyway, several of these professionals show up here, and this video is hosted on the USCCA YouTube channel. So let's take a look and let's try to see if we can break this down and try to figure out if there's anything that could have been done to prevent this. Also, know in the comments down below, what the hell would you guys have done had this been your car? This takes place at right around 2 a.m. I'll move myself out the way so you can kind of see some of the information here. USCCA, what would happen? So yeah, guys, what would you do? Let's take a look. So I'm gonna stop it right here because I want to kind of deconstruct this. I don't know if you guys have noticed. Look how bright all the lights are in the neighborhood. There are lights all along this neighborhood. So to me, the first thing that stands out is that it's highly likely that these guys who are still in these cars right now at 2:27 a.m. or whatever it was, these people have been victims of theft for quite some time. Guys, as high as electricity bills have been after COVID, yes, the electricity's been sliding up if you pay major bills or no. These guys are not doing this for aesthetics. They're doing this because there's been theft all along the street. That's the first thing that pops into my mind when I see this. Must be some kind of device to get through the daggone lock here. He's a professional, clearly. And that appears that the alarm is now going off. So the homeowners are probably woken up in the middle of the night now, looking through the windows more than likely. And this guy has a long gun. Looks to be like an AK-47 style weapon, pointing at probably the bedroom more than likely that's up here. He's basically got it covered like a military guy. I'm gonna pause it here too, because in many states, I'm in the state of Maryland, right? The state of Maryland, we have a duty to retreat. The duty to retreat means that we literally have to make sure that we can move away from the threat. We can't jump out like Rambo and go and eradicate these guys, right? Unless the avenue of retreat is not known to us or it's too dangerous to retreat. Also, it has to be who was the first aggressor who used deadly force first. I'll play a clip after this for you guys who live in Maryland because I want you to understand how you can use deadly force. But because he has now used deadly force against the home, I believe some prosecutors may find it hard to defend this guy if this guy is killed or if his family sues the homeowner if he stopped by a return fire, because this guy, even though he's not fired yet, just by him aiming that weapon at the home, he has now began deadly force. If there are any lawyers who have lawyer channels, I would love to know your thoughts down below as well. But I strongly feel like by him pointing this at the house, he's instigated deadly force, which means his flank that's open, the homeowner might have been able to slip around the back and actually fire on this guy. He might have. The problem with that, though, is that you do have other homes in this area. This isn't a military area, obviously. This isn't like a theater of war. So if you have a long weapon and you're firing multiple shots on this guy, let's just assume this guy's a criminal, because obviously he is. Let's assume he's got a automatic weapon here. He would have been able to put more rounds against this house. He would have totally obliterated this house. It would have been a completely different kind of thing. However, it only takes a couple well-placed shots from behind to actually put him down. Now, does he have some kind of body armor on? He may have. There actually are soft armored targets out there that look like t-shirts, and the way he's all packed up and things and stuff, he might just have that on him, so he might survive the opening volleys. However, he's going to have broken ribs. He's going to be knocked down. He's going to be incapacitated if you have any kind of, even a handgun of 9mm caliber. I would recommend highly, if it's legal in your state, to have some kind of hollow points if you plan on protecting your property like that, if you even have the ability to do it. Like I say, in Maryland where I'm at, we can't do that. But again, with that deadly force being employed here, I believe that allows you to respond with deadly force. Now, can you retreat? Technically, you're in your home. You could walk away from that window. You can call 911. You could leave. But again, the jury instructions, I'm going to play that clip after this. The jury instructions talk about who began who employed deadly force first. And that does matter when the attorneys get involved. That does matter when the juries are instructed in the state of Maryland and many other states as well. And after had this been Texas, there would have been no question. You highly likely would have been able to protect your property with deadly force. Another look at this, but the property's wide open. First thing I would think of is this is a fairly expensive vehicle. So in my mind, you probably wouldn't want to have this thing parked in a driveway, parked inside the garage. I'm assuming there's garages because based off of this one across the street, if it mirrors the house across the street and like this one also has garages, you likely want to put this in the garage. Now, I don't know if there's a spacing issue where he couldn't put it in the garage. 'Cause I'm noticing other trucks across the street that aren't, obviously they're parked on the street as well. So there could be a spacing issue, and judging about how that looks, maybe that's the problem. It might have been a good idea to modify this thing to get it on some kind of air pumping system so you can lower it. I know that's expensive, but now you lost the entire truck. Your insurance rate goes up. You probably get checked for a new truck as well. But that's what it's going to come down to, guys. Like, would you have jumped out here? Would you have tried to protect your stuff with force? Many people are probably going to go with no. I'm going to call 911. I'm going to avoid the jury trial. It's not worth it. But I'm looking at the street now. I really feel like this place has been the victim over and over and over again. Look, basically, this is 2:27 a.m. and everybody's lights are on. Like, that's kind of wild that that's happening. And this light is super bright too. So I really feel like the community's doing the best they can. And I feel like if they lived in a state where they were able to use some kind of force, especially when deadly force was used on them with that rifle pointed toward the house, they probably wouldn't feel as open. Because to me, I get the feeling that these guys feel like this is shopping. You just come in and pick up whatever you want. And I feel like that's the wrong message to be sending to these kind of guys. Another thing is he could have possibly, if I don't know if he gets a fine for doing this, but you can also park another vehicle behind your vehicle to make it a little harder to back up and back out. Those are the first things that come to mind, but let's go ahead and get you guys over to the jury instructions for Maryland when it comes to self-defense.
When can you use force to protect yourself against someone else? As a criminal defense attorney who's represented police officers involved in shootings and argued use of force in front of juries, I have a lot of experience with this. Self-defense is a defense to all Maryland assaultive crimes, including murder. In order to assert self-defense, there must be some evidence that you believed that you were at risk of immediate or imminent harm. If someone is standing 20 feet away from you and takes a few steps closer while shouting that they're going to give you a beatdown, this would probably be immediate and imminent. Perfect self-defense is a complete defense to assault and exists where the defendant's belief that he or she was in immediate or imminent danger of bodily harm is reasonable. Reasonable to who? Well, the judge or the jury. On the other hand, if the judge or jury finds that the defendant actually believed that he or she was in harm's way, but that the belief was not reasonable, that is known as imperfect self-defense. Imperfect self-defense can result in a less severe conviction, such as mitigating first-degree assault down to the misdemeanor of second-degree assault. It does matter who the initial aggressor was. If you are the initial aggressor, you may be precluded from asserting self-defense. It can be a fine line. A judge or jury may have the task of deciding whether someone permissibly armed themselves in anticipation of the need for self-defense versus placing themselves in a position to become a victim by seeking out a fight.
So if I read that correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong down below, guys, how do you read this? Because it sounds like she's saying that if you leave the comfort of your home in the state of Maryland to go out there and defend your truck, you could be guilty of manslaughter. You could be guilty of first or second degree assault on this guy who has a weapon stealing your vehicle. Now, she did say they do take into account who was the aggressor first. That seems pretty cut and dry and clear. She literally said that if you're in the middle of some type of fight and someone jumps out with a weapon, now you can defend yourself with deadly force as well, so long as they chose deadly force first. That's very key here.
Deadly force is defined as that amount of force reasonably calculated to cause death or serious bodily harm. In order to use deadly force, think gun, knife, or ramming someone with a vehicle, by way of example, you must reasonably believe that you are in immediate and imminent danger of death or serious bodily injury. The use of force, the use of deadly force, imposes a duty to retreat unless you are in your home or the part of a building you're using as a residence, including a hotel room. The duty retreat only applies if you know the avenue of retreat and can retreat safely. Finally, I'm going to go over the self-defense jury instruction. This is the instruction that a judge reads to the jury before they decide whether self-defense applies in a criminal case. Jury, you've heard the evidence that the defendant acted in self-defense. Self-defense is a complete defense, and you are required to find the defendant not guilty if all of the following 4 factors are present. 1. The defendant was not the initial aggressor, or although the defendant was the initial aggressor, he or she did not raise the fight to the deadly force level. 2. The defendant actually believed that he or she was in immediate or imminent danger of bodily harm. 3. The defendant's belief was reasonable. And 4. The defendant used no more force than was reasonably necessary to defend himself or herself in light of the threatened or actual harm. Stay tuned for more videos on defensive property.
Now, with that in mind, we're going to look at one more clip. That is a situation where a homeowner actually did run out to prevent his car from being stolen or from items from being stolen from his vehicle. And we're going to break that down using the same idea of what could be seen as, and in this situation, again, no one was hurt as well, but no one was physically hurt, like shot or anything. And I want to know what you guys would do here as well. Would you have drawn your weapon? What would you have done? Another video from the USCCA, by the way.
Out of here! Out of here! Who do you think you are? Okay. Out of here!
Crazy. What the hell? Again, they look like children.
I'm calling the cop! Go ahead!
Yes, Brett. She just tried to grab her car.
And that's where that one ends here. The video has a couple more seconds where like a concerned person here decides to like back up later on, but that's about it. Nothing else happens. He looks like he's okay here. But when would you guys have pulled your weapon? Right? That's what I want to know, because I'm gonna tell you where I would have put my weapon. I'm gonna tell you right now, because based off of hearing what the lawyer had to say earlier, the jury is instructed on who was the initial aggressor. Well, obviously the initial aggressor is the person that entered my car here now, right? He's the guy that got into my car. He's in my car. He's on my property. Once he's passed this line over here, this tree line here, and walked into the property, he's now trespassing. Now, it looks to me like the guy was gonna flee, but then he realized his cell phone was dropped, and possibly his coat. These kids, they spend hundreds of dollars on these coats, so he probably wanted to retrieve that $1,000 phone, that $100 coat or whatever. But the thing is, he's starting to run towards him, and there are people who would say you might have been justified in drawing your weapon when he's running towards you as well. And I feel like the jury instructions, when they're instructed who was the initial aggressor, he's already come onto this property, past this line here, and trespass inside his vehicle. It looks like he's attempting to steal things inside the vehicle. So I feel like if he drew his weapon here, this person should have ran away at that point. If he continues to come forward, you give those commands to step back, and then you can actually fire, in my opinion. But I would love to know you guys' thoughts down there. And if there are any lawyers down there who disagree with me or agree with me, put those comments down below. We're going to let the video roll a little bit further, because there are other people out there who feel like maybe I wouldn't have drawn until the second guy got there. And I'll tell you why I wouldn't have done that. So So now he's in a full-on contact fight again with this guy, which Maryland law allows you to get into a physical confrontation. It allows you to use a little bit of physical force to protect your things. It doesn't let you use deadly force. So now the second person has now passed easement. Easement is usually 6 feet from the road. He's passed easement and entered his property. So now the second person is trespassing. Many of you guys feel like now would have been the time to draw the weapon. If you look at the comments in this video, that's what people are saying. I would ask you guys, how is he going to do that? How is he going to do that? How is he going to draw anything now? He's literally got this guy on his shoulders now. He can't draw. This is the reason why I said you should have drew before, because you don't know who's coming afterwards. You don't know what kind of weapons. This guy could have had a knife on him. This guy could have had a gun on him, right? If you listen to what the lawyer said, she said grave bodily harm. So it could be lethal force and or grave bodily harm. You're in fear of that. So in my opinion, when the guy is attempting to flee and then he starts to run back toward me, that's it. The weapon comes out now. Like, what do you do? Why are you running towards me? I don't know what you have on you. Pull the weapon out. I'm not saying shoot the guy. I'm saying pull the weapon out and give him commands. You know, this is one of the reasons why, you know, carrying a weapon isn't for everybody, because some people, the blood is pumping and they just want to start pulling triggers. Like, this could have landed you in jail if you pull the trigger on this one dude here. But having that weapon drawn and ready, giving him commands to step back, would allow you to have him leave your property. Now, if you do that, if this guy is crazy enough, he might say, well, give me back my coat, give me back my gun. Give me back my coat, give me back my phone. But at that point, that's up to him to throw it back or say, here, take it or get it or whatever. Now, I know some of you guys are going to probably be saying, well, he could have come out and started drawing down on you as well. Well, you know, that's true. He could have. This guy could have come out here with a weapon and started fighting. However, you have to ask yourself, what does this gentleman have now? This guy has all this cover that he could have taken. He would have been fine. It would have been this fool who would have been walking up, standing outside of cover, firing, walking over, trying to get his friend if he did have a weapon. So you got to think about it like that too. I know at the time, you know, people are too into the moment and your blood is pumping and things like that. But, you know, people who understand certain tactics know that this is pretty well enough cover. If he had drawn on this guy and told him to back away, get off my property, back away, get away from me, he might have just left. These guys may not have had any weapons, because when they did come up, you know, they don't have any weapons. And when one of these guys beating him with a shoe, if you really look at it, he's beating him with the shoe. So they didn't really have anything. It looks to me like they're in their mother's car or something. This Mercedes is probably one of these people's parents' car or whatever. And it's always these mobs of 3 or 4 people in a car, like trying to go and make a quick buck. It's just crazy. But what would you have done, really? Like, I showed you where I would have drawn. I already told you I would have drawn way back here when he started to actually run toward me at that point, because to me, that's risk of grave bodily harm. Whether or not you want to wait for the second guy and then the third guy and then that's just, you don't know if he's going to knock your ass out. That's the point. If he knocks you out, you can't use the weapon to begin with. This is the reason why you pull here to prevent being knocked out. I mean, any one of these guys, this could have ended much, much worse. I mean, this is crazy. They're crawling all over this dude. Anyway, I'd love to know your guys' thoughts. He's lucky he ended up unharmed. I mean, he could have had a heart attack or stroke, depending on his health here. This was just ridiculous. But I would love to know your guys' thoughts down below. Would you have pulled your weapon? How would you have handled this? Would you have stayed inside the house and let him just rummage through your car and call 911? How do you feel having heard the jury instructions? And obviously, if you like content like this, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button to let YouTube know that you enjoy these kind of videos so more people can see things like this, because this stuff is happening on a more and more alarming rate. It's happening all over the country, in many states all around. So I'll see you guys in the next video.